Good morning, everyone. Welcome into the SEC Morning Report. I am Blayne Gilmer. This is Southeastern 14, your home for daily SEC sports coverage. And guys, we are getting closer and closer to kickoff of SEC Week 9 football action. And we're today going to be talking about the players that need to show something this week. Show a little something. Okay, who's going to step up? The key players in the matchups this week. So we'll be talking about that, guys. But as always, we are looking to expand and grow and things like that here on the network. If you are interested in partnering with Southeastern 14, hit up caroline.smith@southeastern14.com and we can get you information on that. And as always, check out Chomps in the description below. You can get 15% discount, great flavors, all that kind of stuff. We've got some other partnerships that are going to be coming up. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's talk a little bit about the key matchups in the Georgia-Florida game. Guys, do you realize, according to PFF, and it's not just the PFF grade, because I know you have to take that with a grain of salt at times, but at least there are people watching every play, grading performances, things like that when it comes to PFF. Florida on the PFF grades versus the run in terms of their linebackers, if you sort it by SEC and then sort it by their run grade, they don't have a linebacker in the top 24 in the entire SEC. Scooby Wiliams and Shemar James are both 25th or below. In fact, Scooby Wiliams is 36th in the conference in its PFF run grade. And you guys, I went and watched the tape against Kentucky, against South Carolina, and it is just blatantly obvious that they are continuing to make the same mistakes against the run, particularly gap scheme runs where they're going underneath blocks. They're not fitting it correctly, and I think you'll see Georgia attempt to take advantage of that. And because of that, and because guys, they're slow to fill the gaps, they don't maintain gap responsibility a lot of times, gap integrity. You've got guys like Dejan Edwards and Kendall Milton over there, and maybe even Roderick Robinson, Cash Jones, that are going to step up and try to definitely take advantage of that. Georgia's offensive line is big and strong, and it's going to get movement, and it's better than South Carolina's offensive line was. And South Carolina ran for 152 yards, including the negative sack yardage that came off of that in that game. South Carolina has not been able to run on hardly anyone at all the entire season. That has to be a little bit concerning if you are Austin Armstrong and that Florida front seven. So I think you need to see Florida's front seven, but in particular, Scooby Wiliams and Shemar James have big games, much bigger games, much better games than they had against Kentucky, where those linebackers just got lost, it seemed like, and didn't know where to fit against gap scheme runs, like I said, over and over again. And then sometimes on just duo dive runs right at you, kind of double teams where they're taking two linemen and trying to displace a defensive lineman and sit it into your lap as a linebacker, get that real vertical double team push. And they just didn't play well in those two contests. And both of those are away from the swamp. So that is a question. How does Florida not only run the ball, but defend the run away from the swamp? So I'm interested to see how those two players, Scooby Wiliams and Shemar James, do for Florida. It's time for them to step up and show a little something if the Gators are going to be successful in this game. For Georgia, everybody's talking about an obvious name to point to would be Oscar Delp, because he's going to be in the spot for Brock Bowers and things of that nature. But I don't think that, Kirby has made it quite clear that you're not, looking for anything more out of Oscar Delp. They're still going to have their 11 personnel packages. They're going to have 12 personnel where Lawson, Luckie, or Pierce Spurlin comes in. But I think, honestly, when they do that, guys, when they go 12 personnel, Georgia's going to be looking to go 12 personnel to actually spread the defense out and have – I don't think that you're going to see a tight end and a wing right beside each other out of those two tight ends, or a tight end H-back type look. I think you're going to see a tight end and a flanker. Maybe you got Oscar Delp there in tight as a true inline tight end or an H-back type deal. And then you got Lawson, Luckie, or Pierce Spurlin split out, and let's see who they put out on him, is what Mike Bobo and company might say. Is it going to be a mismatch? You're going to try to have a corner out there on a tight end, and those tight ends in Sperlin and Luckie are good route runners. They catch the ball well, so that would be interesting right there. Do they try to move a linebacker out there? What does that do to the numbers in the box? So I think that's going to kind of be the game when you see 12 personnel out there, but I think you're going to see mostly 11 personnel, and I think the players that you need to see step up in this game. We know what Georgia has in Ladd McConkey. He's coming back. He's going to be healthy. That's a huge pickup for them. Just like on Florida's side, Kinsley Aguakon, their center coming back is a huge pickup for them. But offensively for Georgia, I think the player that needs to step up the most is going to be Dominic Lovett. I think Dominic Lovett is going to be asked to do a lot of the same routes, a lot of the same concept stuff that Brock Bowers was asked to do. Kirby Smart had a quote in his press conference the Monday after the Vanderbilt game when Brock had the surgery, or maybe it was the Tuesday after, the day after he had his surgery, and was like, hey, I think you guys consider a lot of these plays Brock plays, like they're drawn up specifically for Brock. And he said that there's concepts in their offense, and once you have an offense installed, you're able to insert guys into different positions, and lots of different positions can run those different concepts. We saw that in the Vanderbilt game after Brock Bowers went out. They ran the exact same four verts concept, a little bender on the number 2 receiver by Dominic Lovett that Brock Bowers had ran in the Auburn game, where he caught the back shoulder in a key situation late. Same thing for Dominic Lovett. The coverage was very tight, and Brock Bowers Carson Beck trusted him enough to put it in on a back shoulder window. Lovett turned around, caught it, made a big play for Georgia. So I think Dominic Lovett, and I also think Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint are two guys that you're going to see the volume go up, especially on those intermediate passing routes right there. Now, Ladd McConkey, we know what he is. And Georgia really, I think, with the issues of the front seven for Florida, as I mentioned, on defense, I think they're going to try to get whole lot out of Daijun Edwards, Kendall Milton, Roger Robinson, Cash Jones, like I said. So the run game, I think, will be very important as well. And then, when it comes down to it, guys, Austin Armstrong kind of has to show a lot here. I know that people are excited about him being a young coach and things like that, but this Georgia offense is going to be the most talented one that they've faced in terms of across the board, offensive line, quarterback, skills position, everything that they have out there, a lot of different weapons. He's been around Kirby Smart. He was around Nick Saban for a cup of coffee. He's been around these guys, and people are very, very excited, and rightfully so. He's a young guy that has a lot of energy and knows a lot of football. But this is an opportunity for Austin Armstrong to show that he can find a way to scheme up and go head-to-head with an OC that's been around for a long time, and Mike Bobo, and come up with a plan to try to frustrate those guys. So I think those are some guys that you need to show a little something. Show me something this Thursday as we're talking, and on Saturday, let's see if they have big performances, guys. Then for Tennessee and Kentucky, I've thought about this. Obviously, the cop-out answers would be Devin Leary, Joe Milton. Listen, if your quarterback's not playing well, then that's just not going to bode well for you. You've got to have better quarterback play if you're going to be able to produce on third down, if you're going to be able to extend drives, if you're going to execute in the red zone. A lot of it's on the quarterback. We know that. We know college football is a quarterback-driven game. Devin Leary is going to have to play better. Joe Milton is going to have to play better in those key situations. I think who has to hashtag show me something right here on the Kentucky and Tennessee game is going to be the defense for Kentucky, that front seven, because Tennessee is going to kind of want to come in there, especially with that crowd noise and things like that at Kroger Field, night game, and run the football. And here's the thing about it, guys. the defense for Kentucky has always been the calling card, keeping people in games, stuff like that. Mark Stoops, Brad White, very physical, things like that. Kentucky is allowing people to convert third downs this year at an alarmingly high rate. Okay, 48% of the time. That is one of the worst conversion rates defensively in the SEC. So whether it's J.J. Weaver, whether it's Deion Walker, whether it's Oxendine, whoever it is in there, being able to create some negative plays early, stopping that Tennessee tempo, those guys have to step up front and really stymie that Tennessee run game, and be able to create some third downs that are more conducive for them being able to convert those defensively and get Tennessee's offense off the field. I can tell you this, last year Kentucky's defense was off balance the entire time. There was no rhyme or reason for how to stop Tennessee. That they got overwhelmed by that crowd there in Knoxville, and it was just a wrap early on in that game. Will they have learned from that? Will they have learned from some of their big plays that they gave up in the Missouri game? We'll see. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. So I think J.J. Weaver, Deion Walker, Oxendine, all these guys in the middle, Trevin Wallace, inside linebacker, all of these guys on that Kentucky front seven really have to step up and show that, hey, we're going to make it a priority to stop the run, and we're going to get off the field on third down. And that's going to give Devin Leary, Dane Key, all those guys who we know have to step up offensively. But I think when you know going in that you have an element of your team that just isn't playing well this year, like it's just not the season for the passing game at Kentucky. They're going to be what they are at this point in the year. Defense has to step up and take over a little bit and go that extra mile. So look at that Kentucky front seven for a group that needs to step it up a little bit and show me something this weekend. For Tennessee, Ramel Keaton, Squirrel White, man, Kentucky's back end of their defense, they couldn't even stick with the receivers last year. The receivers for Tennessee just absolutely making huge plays down the field, big play after big play against that Kentucky defense, and just kind of eviscerated them. So, but this year, there's been a lot of times where there's been opportunities to make key plays by Ramel Keaton. Squirrel Wright finally had a little bit of a breakout there against Alabama in that first half, made a couple really nice plays. But consistency from the wide receiving core and the tight ends there for Tennessee is what I want to see in this passing game. Listen, Joe Milton has had his warts at different times during the year for sure, but there's also been opportunities where Joe Milton has laid the ball right in the hands of Tennessee wideouts. And, in particular, Ramel Keaton with Brew McCoy out, kind of having to do a whole lot more there. And then you've got Dante Thornton, who has not done really virtually anything all year this year. Let's see how those guys are able to produce. It was a physical game against Alabama for that front, in terms of trying to run the ball against Alabama, defensively trying to stop Alabama's run game. So I think this is a game where you need to see the skill positions on the perimeter, both offensively and defensively, step up for Tennessee a little bit and make sure that they're able to, get something going through the air on the offensive side of the ball. Like, you have to be able to create explosives, and Tennessee is worst in the SEC in creating explosive plays this year. A lot of that has to do with the lack of explosive pass plays. So pass plays of 20 yards or more, Tennessee is way off pace from what they created a year ago in terms of having 55 explosive plays last year. And this year they're only at 14 right now. Got to have more than that. So I need to see the receivers for Tennessee step up, and that's just the receiver group as a whole step up and show me something this Saturday. So the groups that we've talked about so far, guys. Of course, we've talked about the linebackers for Florida, Scooby Wiliams and Shemar James. They have to step up and be able to take on a Georgia run game that's going to have a lot of gap scheme runs, some different type of duo and zone runs. They're going to mix it up a lot. How do they fit gaps and maintain gap integrity over there? And can they do it a little bit faster than they did against Kentucky and South Carolina, where they got beat to the spot a few times? We've talked about Dominic, Lovett, and Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint in the intermediate passing game area for Georgia, kind of replacing some of those routes of Brock Bowers. That's definitely an area that they have to step up in. We've talked about Tennessee's receivers. We've talked about Kentucky's defensive front seven, trying to really, really stop that Tennessee run game to get something going there. Now let's talk about South Carolina and Texas A&M. I specifically want to see Max Johnson play better fundamentally, mechanically, not anything with making reads and all this kind of stuff. What I want to see is Max Johnson plant his back foot. So him throwing, he's left-handed, plant his left foot into the ground, push off of it, get his momentum going forward, okay? Not falling backwards. He makes so many throws falling backwards, his weight on his back foot, and things are just off just enough because of not being able to transfer his weight and get work all the way through throws, that it throws off timing, it throws off accuracy, all this kind of stuff in that Texas A&M passing offense. And also, Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher, show me that you understand who Evan Stewart and Aniyah Smith are, okay? Not enough touches. Get them the ball, okay? I don't care if it's a now screen. I don't care if it's an end around, a jet sweep. I don't care if you line up Aniyah Smith in the backfield. Get them the football. You are a more talented team than South Carolina. You are a healthier team than South Carolina, but still utilize the weapons that you have early and often, and there should be no doubt in this one. For South Carolina, went back and watched how their pass coverage against Florida. My goodness. I mean, sending guys on blitzes, nobody replaces them either in a fire zone situation. Nobody replaces that area. People running wide open, or you're in man coverage and people just stop and don't continue on the route with the receiver. They get their eyes lost in the backfield. Such a lack of discipline on the back end of that South Carolina defense. So the only one that seems to consistently be in their spot and do their job is Nick Amon-Wari. So these other, whether it's Dial, whether it's all these other guys out there on the perimeter and in the secondary for South Carolina, got to step up and show me something that you're going to be disciplined in the game plan that the coaches have given to you. I understand, Shane Beamer went on the rant after the game saying guys got to do their job. They got to do things like that. And yeah, I was on Shane Beamer a little bit because I don't think you air some of that dirty laundry to the press right after the game. But he is correct that the guys have to be accountable for doing what the coaches call. So you do eventually have to step up and say, hey, if you're not going to do it, we'll get somebody who will. The secondary for South Carolina is going to be important in this game. I don't think that Texas A&M is just going to line up and just maul them with the run game. South Carolina can do a decent job of holding down Le'Veon Moss, holding down Reuben Owens, holding down Amari Daniels, guys like that. But I think what you will see is you'll see, hopefully, if Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino don't commit another example of offensive play calling malpractice and not getting the ball to Evan Stewart and Aniyah Smith, then I think you'll see A&M go through the air, which is why I challenged Max Johnson to, hey, let's show some mechanical awareness and let's get that weight going forward as you throw the football. I think what you're going to see right here is a big test for the DBs of South Carolina. Can they step up and just not allow easy completions 10, 12, 14 yards down the field and then tackle in space. That has been an issue for South Carolina, especially against Florida. Listen, we know South Carolina's offensive line is in shambles. Not even worth asking them to show up, to step up, because I don't know that they can. South Carolina was so hampered by injury this week that there was times in practice where they didn't have a two deep for the offensive line, not a full second offensive line to rotate in there. So that's tough. I mean, that's tough times. So we'll see what happens there. Mississippi State and Auburn, some players that we need to see show me something this weekend. Show a little extra, show a little something that you haven't already. I'm looking at the Auburn wide receivers. Guys, I mean, Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford for sure have not been up to par when it comes to being able to throw the football. Okay, there has been a lack of trust, I think, in that passing game. I think that when it comes down to it, you've got guys that aren't quite sure exactly of the concept at times. And, you know, there's some confusion on, okay, which RPO pass is going with which RPO run. And also, too, I don't know that Philip Montgomery trusts his offensive line totally to protect those guys. How quick is the ball going to be coming out? Peyton Thorne seems to at times be confident ripping the ball, but other times it seems like he's one read and then he's out the gate because of what they've experienced. But guys, we need to see Jay Fair, we need to see Shane Hooks, we need to see Javarius Johnson if he's healthy. I know he's been banged up a little bit. We need to see these guys make plays when plays are there to be made, and the quarterbacks to trust them a little bit more. Robbie Ashford, Peyton Thorne, trust these receivers a little bit more, whether it's Deal or Fairweather at tight end. Find ways to get easy completions and be able to loosen up this aggressive Mississippi State defense, because I think they showed last week against Arkansas, if they know that you're one-dimensional, Zach Arnett is going to smell blood and he is going to bring pressure. They got Jet Johnson and Boogie Watson over there that are playing tremendously well at the linebacker position. So show me something, Auburn passing game. Receivers in particular, make some plays when they put the ball even in the vicinity for you as a receiver. You know, help those quarterbacks out, help that offensive line out in the pass protection by, you know, getting some separation early, allowing them not to have to protect so long, letting Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery have a little confidence in being able to distribute the football out there to you, not feeling like they have to come up with 75 different ways to run the football. So that's the group I'm looking at. Can anybody on the perimeter for Auburn step up and make a couple plays in this game? You don't have to be the next Jerry Rice or Randy Moss or something like that, but just go out there and make the plays that are there to be made. Plain and simple. Then for Mississippi State, guys, it's still unclear with Will Rogers, with Jaquavius Marks, of what their health status is going to be. Can Kevin Barbay, and I am looking at Kevin Barbay here, find some creative ways to generate some playmaking ability outside of those guys? You may not have them. If you do, Woody Marks didn't look good at all. I mean, he was gutting things out. He looked good in terms of the results. What I'm talking about is he didn't look good health-wise. I mean, he looked like he was in pain and hurting and things like that. I don't know how much you'll see him in this game. I mean, the guy's a warrior trying to go out there and push through it. But I think you need to see Davis, Pittman, all these kind of guys at running back step up a little bit, make some plays. But Kevin Barbay in particular, there are some receivers and some guys that you can use in different ways. Tulu Griffin, of course, Justin Robinson's a deep threat. Now Mike Wright's got to be able to manage things if he's at quarterback. But let's be a little creative. Let's find every way we can to utilize Mike Wright's legs to create some easy plays for guys like Tulu Griffin, whether it's a jet sweep, stuff like that, whether it's, Justin Robinson on just a couple of 50-50 balls. They waited till really late in the game against Arkansas to just throw a ball up to Justin Robinson and let him come down with it with that big 6'4" frame. So Kevin Barbe, offensive coordinator for Mississippi State, show me something this weekend, because Zach Arnett, the defense over there, were getting it done against Arkansas last week. You are not going to be able to have the same only 7-point output offensively and come away with a win at Auburn. I think the offense for Mississippi State needs to show something a little bit more right here. And then Vandy and Ole Miss. Vandy, just show me the competitiveness that you've shown at a couple of times this year early in games. Just continue to be competitive and try to not turn the ball over. That's really all I can say for Vanderbilt, because they're outmanned in this game. Ole Miss should be able to come out and run the football. The offensive line, Quinshad Judkins for Ole Miss, just show us that you can go in there, take care of business, win this one the way that you're supposed to at home, a night game over there in the Grove. Should be rocking all day, and then you come in there and watch a game and see the Rebels take care of business. So I want to see the run game and, of course, the offensive line for Ole Miss just operate the way that it should in this game. Guys, those are the players, the position groups, the sides of the ball, things of that nature that need to show us something this weekend. Make a little step up. Let the team know that you're going to do your part, because those are key matchups in these games, kind of the game within the game on some of those. So if you've enjoyed this content, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Tomorrow morning, we will have Jake Crane from Crane & Company on the Daily Wire here with us for Jake's Takes on Southeastern 14. We have that each and every Friday morning. Takes the place of the morning report here on Southeastern 14 on Fridays. This show, Monday through Thursday, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. We have a daily show from 12 noon Eastern till 1 o'clock, 11 to 12 Central, with Chris Lee and Gavin Schoenwald, the former Vanderbilt tight end. Last night, myself, Tavares King, Noshawn Marino, and a bunch of you that got to call in. We'd have a show on Wednesday nights live, so thank you so much for tuning in to that, and we hope you'll do so going forward on Wednesday nights. Brian Edwards is on this channel. Him and Blake Lovell talk, football betting, things of that nature. They get that going each and every week, and Blake Lovell's about to crank out the basketball content. So like I said, it is daily SEC sports coverage right here on Southeastern 14. Make sure you stay tuned in for that. Like I said, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Make sure you check out Chomps in the description, and hit up Caroline.Smith at Southeastern 14 if you're looking for a company to advertise with and you want to target an SEC crazed audience right here, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, I'm Blayne Gilmer. This is Southeastern 14. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning with Jake Crane about some more SEC football right here on Southeastern 14.